Good Saturday morning to you. Almost sounded Irish, didn't it? Always wanted to have an Irish accent. How cool would that be? Or Scottish. That's where my family's from. I don't know when they left Scotland and Ireland, but my grandmother on my dad's mother, her family was from Scotland, and my grandfather, my dad's father, was from Ireland. And we actually have a cousin that does the genealogy. Her name's Darla. Shout out to Darla. And she's up in Southfield, Michigan. So, hey, Darla. Anyway, she's done a fantastic job, but she actually knows where some of our folks are buried, the cemeteries in both Scotland and Ireland. So one of these days I'll make it over there. My daughter keeps telling me, "Hey, get a passport, Dad. Mom and Dad, get a passport. You can travel everywhere. You can go." And she works for Delta, so we do get a nice benefit. We get to fly for free as long as we're flying on standby. So it's a pretty good benefit. It just drives me nuts though, not knowing and waiting in the airport, and I'm pacing back and forth. My wife's just over there just reading a book or whatever, just calm, cool as a cucumber, as my dad used to say. But anyway, I've always been fascinated by both of their accents, Ireland and Scotland. Anyway, man, talk about beautiful weather we've had over the last couple of days. I mean, it's been unusually warm as of late. Heck, I know we've hit 80 or higher a couple of times within the last 3 days. And of course, with warm weather, our bodies have a natural instinct, I think, to get outside and do something outside. Now, homeowners and renters for that matter, there's things you can do. You can take advantage of these calm, warmer days, and it has been calm on being warmer, which is unusual. Normally this time of year, if it's 80 degrees outside, you've got 80 mile per hour winds, but it really hasn't been that way. It's been really pretty. But anyway, there's a lot of maintenance you can do outside of your house. And I can tell you this, my wife has been working extremely hard. She's a retired teacher, but she's been spending the last day or so out in our barn / cow shed. I guess it's not, I want to call it a barn. My ego says it's a barn, but it's probably a cow shed. But she's been cleaning that. I mean, there was a ton of dust in there, probably an inch or two, covering everything. And she's gotten in there and swept a bunch of it out, moved some tin that we're going to use for a covered patio, and we're going to use it's all galvanized tin roofing material. We're going to put some on the roof that's blown off over the last couple of years. We've got to do some repairs there. But she's also spent a lot of time cleaning out our chicken coop. We've got 10 chickens, and put in some new nesting material. We've been using some Bermuda bales of Bermuda grass, dried Bermuda, and they love it. They seem to really enjoy it, and they can probably eat it for that matter. But I think they love it as a comfortable, warm nest. But she put some diatomaceous earth down and some other things, and raked out all the droppings and all the old nesting material, and it really looks nice. So instead, we don't have a doghouse because our dogs are inside. So when I get in trouble with a wife, I'm sent to the chicken coop. So that's not a bad thing when it's this clean. And it is nice. She's had this urge to get outside and do things. And there are some things you can do, that actually help with like energy efficiency, since our show is all about energy efficiency. And you say your show, what show you're talking about? I'm talking about Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. I think that gets louder and louder every week. I need to calm down. I really do. Maybe I'm scaring off all of the listeners when I do that. But really, as you can tell, I don't need coffee. But who does need coffee in the morning when you have Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy? And keep in mind this is pretty big deal. Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy is the only podcast awarded the prestigious Energy Star label. So pretty cool for, our little town of Clovis, our little co-op of Farmers Electric Cooperative. We're pretty proud. But, you know, again, this is going to be an abbreviated show, by the way. I've got some limited time today to do this, so I'm going to try to keep it around 25 minutes. We are 5.5 minutes into the show, so I'll pick it up a little bit, but we're not going to have time for this day in history or anything like that. But I'll try to keep it interesting. But you know, it's warming up outside, so our body's saying, "Hey, you need to get outside. You need to get some vitamin D. You need to do something." But you know, I came up with a list of things like that you do before summer. So you can actually improve your home's energy efficiency this spring by sealing all air leaks around windows and doors with caulk and weather stripping. And you learn by repetition, folks. That's why I talk about this stuff all the time. Cleaning AC condenser coils. Now, that's something you don't do all the time, but that's something you can do this spring. Changing HVAC filters, we suggest you do that at least every other month, particularly in the springtime and maybe into the early winter when the wind's bad and the dust is bad. You might want to change those a little more frequently, but check them anyway. Pull them out. If you hold them to the light and you see through them if they look pretty clean, where you can see light through them fairly easily, you can probably put them in there for a little bit longer. Further savings can be achieved by installing exterior shading, cleaning windows, and clearing debris from around your HVAC vents. That's a big deal because you probably still have leaves around if you're like me, around your HVAC system from last fall. And some of these trees don't even drop their leaves until the spring, like red oaks typically hold their leaves. They're not evergreen, they're dead. The leaves are dead, but they're intact on the tree, and they usually get pushed off as the new growth, as the trees start to bud. So there's going to be those leaves this spring. So it'll keep you busy if you want something to do. So here's some things to do: exterior and structural upgrades. Seal air leaks. Apply caulk or weather stripping around windows, doors, and areas where utilities enter the home to keep cool air in, because you're going to be that conditioned air, and we're going to switch to cool here in about a month. And we're going to have a month with not much of anything. We're going to still need the heater. I mean, we are we're entering the first week of March, but we're still going to need the heater into March. But we probably won't use the air conditioning, maybe very little. But March is what we call a shoulder month. If you think of the bell curve, the top of the curve is the higher usage months like summer and winter. And then as you go down the backside of winter, then you start entering the spring. And then right at the shoulder is, say, March, April. You know, we're not using any air conditioning or heating necessarily. And then May, it starts to creep back up, you know, for the second cycle of the bell curve. Anyway, if you can visualize that, that's where we're at. So here, let me go down the list here. Check ductwork. Inspect exterior or attic ductwork for leaks and seal with HVAC tape or mastic. Mastic is messy, but it's supposed to be the best. HVAC tape, the metal tape, the aluminum tape is good, but mastic is better. It's just messy, so expect to get messy and sticky and throw away, get those cheap cotton gloves, because that's the way you're going to probably apply it, most of it, but then you'll have to change those out and throw them away. You'll go through more than one pair. Maintain HVAC unit, clean debris, leaves, dirt away from the outdoor AC condenser unit to ensure proper airflow and efficiency. Install shading. That's a little bit more and will cost a little bit of money, but it's one of those things that aren't so expensive that you would get it back if you sell your house or something like that, but you're definitely going to get it back through energy savings over time. I don't know what the payback period is on that, but install awnings, solar screens, or plant trees and shrubs to shade windows from direct sunlight, reducing cooling loads. Now, yes, you want to put a tree blocking the west sun from a window, maybe even the east side in the morning, because it gets pretty warm. The northeast side in the late summer. So there's another area where the sun may be coming in directly. But you don't, on the west side, you really don't want to put an evergreen, because in the fall you want those leaves to fall, and into the winter, because you want the sun then that's in the western skies, or to be able to come in and get that free heat from the sun, right? You want the sun to shine through the window, because that's how you gain heat in the wintertime on a sunny day, even if it's cold outside. So be mindful of what type of tree you want to plant and where you plant the tree. Clean windows. Clean windows can maximize natural light and reduce the need for artificial lighting. That's so true. Cut back on your lighting bill. Operational and maintenance tips. Switch fan direction. Set ceiling fans to turn counterclockwise to create a breeze that allows for a higher AC set point. In other words, when you're standing under the fan, you want to be able to feel that comfortable downdraft. Now, this is a little bit later. We're not quite ready for that yet, but as it starts to warm up outside, you want to, right now in the winter setting, it's turning clockwise, but you want to switch that to counterclockwise so that it's actually pushing the air directly down and you can feel the comfortable downdraft. In the winter, you want it to pull the heated, conditioned air up through the middle, up across the ceiling and down the walls. You don't really want to feel the draft. So make sure those are turning in the proper direction for the warmer weather. Clean or replace air filters. We talked about that a little bit, but replace dirty air filters to improve airflow and reduce energy consumption as temperatures rise. Use outdoor cooking. That's a big deal. You don't want to heat up the kitchen too much to heat up, so then your air conditioner is going to have to work harder. So use an outdoor grill to keep indoor temperatures lower, reduce the workload on your AC. Plus, it's always nice to have a cookout. I know that was when my kids were home, and we still do that. My wife and I, we're empty nesters, but we still have a cookout occasionally. I'll cook steaks or burger, or in the summertime when the corn is ripe. We've got a good friend that brings us corn, Doug Reed, one of the members at Farmers Electric, and sometimes we'll give him a dozen eggs, and he'll give us a dozen ears of corn or whatever. But that's just the way neighbors are in this part of the country. So yeah, it's kind of like the old days, but rural living at its finest. And you'll find that the more chickens you got, the more friends you got. But no, the corn, and I don't know how you guys cook your corn, but I found that, man, it doesn't get much better than like soaking the corn. And it's in the husk, right? Still in the husk. And then you soak it in water, and then put that directly on your open flame barbecue grill, and just turn it, quarter turns occasionally until the husk are black, pretty much. But it will steam inside those, inside the ears will steam that corn inside the husk, and man, it doesn't get much better than that. And then it just peels right off, and you got just add a little butter, salt, and pepper, maybe a little crushed red pepper. Oh man, that's good. That's good. Inspect your roof and attic. Ensure that attic vents are not blocked to allow heat to escape. Another thing to do is call your HVAC guy and say, hey, it's springtime and we're rolling out of winter, and I just want to make sure my outdoor condensing unit's ready to cool our home. And it's heated fine, but can you check our system out? And here's a few questions you might ask. We're 14 and a half minutes after the hour. Before the summer, ask your HVAC technician to check refrigerant levels, clean coils, inspect the condensate drain line, and check for proper airflow. Key questions include, what is the best air filter type for my system? And are there signs of wear on components like belts or capacitors? Capacitors are a big thing. When your capacitor goes out on your outdoor condensing unit, you think, oh gosh, what's wrong with this thing? It's making noise. The fan's not moving. It's humming. Good grief. This is going to be an expensive repair. DIY, folks. You can check a capacitor. Look it up on YouTube. You got to be very careful though. You need to disconnect the power, or you need to turn it off at the main. You don't ever want to, and then you want to discharge the capacitor, and all that's on the YouTube videos. But a capacitor is the problem 90% of the time, and it's about a $25 part or less, and takes about 15 minutes to change. Good friend of mine got a hold of me and said, man, my air conditioner's doing this, that, and the other thing, and it sounded just like a capacitor issue. And she goes, I'm going to call so-and-so. And I said, you know what? Why don't you watch this video? I sent her a video, and she watched it, and she goes, that's exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to try it. And anyway, sure enough, she did it. She did it on her own, DIY, and she's so thankful. And she's, you know, it cost her $25. But, you know, there is a time when you need to get these professionals involved, and that's what I'm talking about this time around. But essential questions for an HVAC technician could be this: system health. What is the overall condition of my unit? Great question to ask. Refrigerant levels. Are my refrigerant levels correct? Or is there a leak? You know, and if you have these already memorized or a little sheet to look at, they know they're not going to get anything by you. They know they're dealing with an educated customer. Okay? So just be prepared. Airflow and efficiency. Are the coils clean? And is the blower fan operating correctly? Drainage. Is the condensate drain line clear to prevent water damage? That's important. I've seen guys have water damage in their attic because they weren't. The condensate drain wasn't clear, and it caused a leak. I have a thing that goes off in my an alarm, I guess. It's not a real audible alarm. The system basically shuts down, and it's it's not like the skull and crossbones, but I mean, it kind of reminds me of that. It just looks horrible on my my thermostat. It's one of those LED, you know, solid state. So it's red and a flashing light. Anyway, it turns out that my condensate pan is plugged. The first time I called somebody out, and they fixed it. And I'll tell you who it was. It was JQ Heating and Air Conditioning. Jason Queener, Heating and Air Conditioning Electricians. They're one of the best folks right here in eastern New Mexico. Give them a call. As a matter of fact, I think they've got an operation in Lubbock too. So if you folks are listening over in Lubbock or West Texas, you can call JQ Heating and Air Conditioning. They're licensed to practice in both states. But if you have a major issue, these guys are the ones to turn to. And they basically told me when they came out, look, Tom, here it is this time. We got to charge you a service charge, but that's all we're going to charge you. We're not going to charge you anything more. So it's like $85. But I said, but we're going to tell you how to fix this in the future, so you don't have to call us. If the same message comes up, go check that first. And sure enough, it's happened twice. And I don't know if it's algae or something builds up and clogs that drain hole. And I just basically just put a little brush in there, twist it around a few times, and the water drains, and it's not operating because I've turned it off. And then I wipe it down real good, and I just use vinegar and water mixture, and just wipe it down, and it works like a charm. And then I won't have to worry about it for a good long while. Where was I? Filter recommendation. What MERV rating filter is best for my system to maximize efficiency without restricting airflow? Yeah, I mean, you can buy filters that are so good they won't let you just can't breathe through them, and neither could your system. And those are the most expensive ones, but they keep out all these pollutants and this, that, and the other thing. But if you don't want to spend that kind of money, there are middle of the road is what I would call them, 3M filters or store. There's a store online that's filters.com or something like that, and you can buy in bulk and save a ton of money. But I would suggest first going by and talking to after you've asked your HVAC technician which is best. Go talk to my friends at least locally here at James Burns Hardware. And he'd be happy to show you which is the best filter to use and the most value for your money. 19 and a half minutes past. We've got about 5 more minutes, folks, so I'm going to pick it up just a bit. But anyway, Burns, they sponsored our show, Morning Buzz with the Energy Guys on the radio, starting 10 years ago, and they've sponsored us for 5 years, and I just feel like we owe them a shout-out. I tell you this, if you go into Burns Hardware here in Clovis, the old Triangle building for you old timers. If you go in there and you're 6 feet into the building and a worker doesn't say good morning or good afternoon, how can I help you find something? If you don't hear that, there's something wrong. And to top it off, it's a great place to visit for me because High Plains Gun Shop is part of that business, and it's right down by the grills, and you have to walk by all the cool grills and do some shopping for your own Father's Day, maybe. That'll be here before we know it in June. But yeah, the gun shop there, those two, there's a couple of guys in there, Gabriel, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they're just fantastic. Ryan, his name's Ryan, and they always treat me well. And they've got pretty good prices on ammunition. You know, this day and age, it's hard to find. Thermostat and controls. Is my thermostat set to the best schedule for energy savings? Preventive maintenance. What can I do between visits to keep the system running well, and to its utmost? Pre-summer maintenance checklist. Replace air filters. Do this before the heavy cooling season. Clear the outdoor unit. Ensure at least 2 feet of space around the condenser is free of debris, leaves that we talked about earlier, branches that might have broken off and blown into it. Clean coils. A dirty condenser coil can prevent the system from cooling properly. So you can do that shit. That's another DIY. Most of the stuff is DIY. Or you can ask your technician to do that while they're there. Test run. Run the AC turn the AC on before the first hot day, the real hot day, to ensure it runs without strange noises or smells. Warning signs of trouble. Uneven cooling. Okay, so if one room seems like it's super cool and the other one seems like it's not so cool, you may have a ductwork issue, is my guess. So you probably have to spend, and this is the time to get up in your attic, folks, over the next month and a half, because it's not going to be too cold, and it's definitely not going to be too hot. You can probably go up there with a light jacket on right now and be fairly comfortable. But uneven cooling, sudden spikes in utility bills, something's wrong. It's like, you know, people call in all the time saying, man, my bill is so high right now. And it seems like my system's running all the time, but I can't get it to, below 78 degrees in there. And that would be a concern. So I'm thinking, well, maybe the refrigerant is low. Maybe there's a leak in your refrigerant. So that's something to call your HVAC technician and ask them about. Frequent cycling, turning on and off, short cycles. That's not good for a system. That would actually cut the life of an AC system. If it happens very often, it could cut the lifetime by 50%. You don't want that. Strange noises. This is never clanking. There could be, the fan could be out of balance and click, clink, 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 instead of a nice smooth. My wife says that guys have better sound effects because, get this, because we have more spit in our mouth is her thought. I don't know if that's true or not, but I say guys are pretty good at sound effects. Anyway, man, I am going to be doing the abbreviated show. I'll be on for another minute probably. But hey, folks, I hope you're having a great day, whatever time or evening, whatever time you might be listening to Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. And we're every Saturday, our new show drops at 7 a.m. And this is episode 37. So we've been going more than probably 7 months now. I hadn't done the math on that, but that's about 7 months. And lots of material out there. We're on a bunch of different platforms. We're on Spotify podcast. We're on Apple Podcast. We're on YouTube. And I always put the YouTube link on our Facebook page, Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. So again, this has been your host, Tom Moore, recording from our studio in Clovis, New Mexico at the Farmers Electric headquarters. Hope you have a great week. See you next week.